Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about something a bit more personal, about something that's happening in our lives at the moment. So I will give you a brief rundown. So I'm going to do this in two parts. I'm going to give you a rundown of what's happened up to date, and then I'll wait for any questions and anything. I've already got quite a big list of questions, but I won't answer them this time. I'll answer them next time when everyone has a chance to ask what they want to ask. I am planning on eventually doing a proper introduction to us, but for now I'm just going to do a brief one just so I can get the point of this whole vlog across. So myself and my partner Dom have been together for 7 years now, and a lot has happened in that 7 years. We have had a full-on lifestyle. We've got two gorgeous little boys who are 5 and 3. Their names are Zeke and Chase. I have had my own business since 2011, working for myself full-time, in between having kids and going back to study. My partner Dom is 29, nearly 30, he'll be 30 this year. He is a fully qualified mechanic. He's quite well known for being a very good mechanic and very particular with his work. He takes a lot of pride in his work. He worked for someone for 7 or 8 years. Halfway through last year he decided that he would like to go out on his own and have more flexibility to be with his family and just to have his own clientele and see what it's like to run your own business, I guess. From day dot he was extremely busy. We were very blessed. I was waiting for that period to come where we just had no work, but it never came. It was going really, really well. October 17th, 2017, Dom came home from work and picked up our eldest son, Zeke, and took him to his parents' house just 15 minutes away from our house, probably not even that long, where our other son was. I think he was picking up Chase, the youngest son, and bringing him home, but he took Zeke for a drive. When he got to his parents' house, he parked up in the driveway and told Zeke to undo his seatbelt, get ready to get out the car. Zeke's side of the story goes that Dad told me to take off my seatbelt and then blah blah blah. So I got a phone call saying that Dom had had a seizure. Before Zeke had the chance to get out of the car, Dom had a seizure that lasted for about up to 5 minutes. The car shot forward as the boys were still in there, so Dom in the driver's seat obviously and Zeke was in the back seat, but Zeke had his seatbelt off but was completely fine. They shot forward, I think about 20 metres, but I'm not entirely sure. Crashed into a shed and then came to a halt, so Dom's foot must have slipped off the accelerator. Shooting forward was just due to Dom having a seizure, and he mustn't have put the car out of gear. Luckily Dom's brother was at home and he raced out because he thought it was very odd, obviously, and seen that Dom was unable to breathe and his body was spasming, and Zeke was in the car, so he got Zeke out quickly, told him to run inside, and got Dom out of the car, got him onto the ground, and Dom kept fitting for a few minutes longer. He snapped out of it, and then the ambulance was already on its way. Dom's parents had called the ambulance, so that was a good thing. The ambulance was taking Dom to Fiona Stanley Hospital, which is a hospital here in Perth. That's when he came to. He had already come to as such beforehand, but he doesn't remember anything until he just thinks he woke up in the ambulance. He doesn't remember anything prior to that. At the hospital they did numerous tests. They tested his blood sugar levels and all his blood, everything like that, to make sure there was no infections and things, and then nothing came up. Everything was perfectly fine, which I was kind of a bit disappointed about. I thought it might be something like low blood sugar levels or something simple like that, but they took him off for a CT scan, and they came back about half an hour later and told us that Dom had quite a large tumour in his brain, in his frontal lobe, his right frontal lobe. And it just came out of nowhere. Dom had no symptoms whatsoever. So they told us it was 5 by 5 by 3 centimetres, which is quite a decent size. So they took him from emergency to a different part of emergency, which he then stayed there overnight by himself, which is horrible. I don't know how he got any sleep really, but there's an ice cream truck. I don't know how he would have seriously. Hurry up. Come on. There he goes. Okay. I don't know how he would have been coping in that hospital by himself with this news. Like it was shocking. It was just, that's the only word for it really. We had just no idea. From there he was transferred to Sir Charles Gardner Hospital, which is where the neuro specialists are for WA. He did have an MRI while he was at Fiona Stanley, and that gave the nurses and doctors a better idea of how severe the tumour was, I guess. He had the seizure on a Tuesday, and he was then in hospital for the week until the next Monday. He did get day leave for the Saturday and the Sunday, but couldn't go too far from the hospital because he had had the seizure. He instantly lost his driver's licence, which is a big thing for a mobile mechanic. So on the Sunday we had a family and friends get together at Kings Park, which was a beautiful day. It was just so good to have a day where Dom could be out and be happy and take his mind off of things. It was the day prior to surgery. Anyway, we had a great day and we went out for dinner and then took him back to the hospital. I stayed with him at the hospital overnight, which was not allowed, but I don't care. I left the hospital at 4:30 in the morning, raced home and had a quick shower and got back up to the hospital by 6:30 in the morning, so I could say goodbye to Dom. Before his surgery, we had been told that of the risks of, like as you do with any surgery. So the risks were that because of where the tumour was, that if they took too much of the tumour away, it could affect his left side of his body. The placement of the tumour supposedly should have been affecting his mood and his temper and his concentration and things like that, but it wasn't at the time. The surgery, I think he went in at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they had told us 2.5 hours for the surgery. Now, thinking back, that's nowhere near long enough for brain surgery, but that's what they told us. They said around 2.5 hours. It was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when we heard that he had come out of surgery but was in the resting part after surgery. So after his surgery, he went into the high dependency ward, where we got to go in and see him very briefly for only a couple of minutes. He wanted to see me first. He was quite alert that night, but he was obviously pretty drugged up from all the stuff that they had given him. When I went in to see him, he was happy enough. He just said to me, I can't feel my leg and my arm. I just said, that's okay, it's all right. You're 5 minutes out of surgery, things will be okay. Was still throwing jokes around, like I remember the funniest thing was his brother came in, his youngest brother, and he said, take my strong hand, child. I don't even know what that's out of, but Dom knows what it's out of, and Dom doesn't remember saying it, but it's just something Dom would say. It was so funny, and Ryan just cracked up laughing. It was gold, really, to see him in that happy state. The next day I was up there as soon as visiting hours had opened, and Dom was a different person, really. He was not alert at all. He was very out of it, extremely tired. He couldn't even move his head. They kept coming in to test him every probably hour to see if he could feel his leg or his hand. He had absolutely no feeling whatsoever. They would crush his fingers and they would crush his toes with a metal bar on his nail, like crushing it as hard as they could, and he just couldn't feel it. He had nothing. But we weren't really worried. It's a weird feeling, like we just knew things were going to be okay. He actually couldn't even sit up. He would just fall over to the side because all of his left side was gone, so he couldn't even sit up. As the days progressed, he started to get a bit of feeling in his foot, which was really exciting. Like he actually got a wiggle in, I think 2 days post-surgery, he got a wiggle in of his toes. Headaches were unbearable, really. From his whole brain was inflamed but still in the same skull, so it has to be in there and compressed, and while it's all swollen, it still has to be in that same shape of a head. He spent 2 days in the high dependency ward, and then they put him across into his own private rooms. That is when I started to see a change for the worse in his moods. And it wasn't down like talking badly about himself, it was down like you looked at him, and even though he was looking at you, there was no one behind. It's really hard to explain. There was no one there. It wasn't Dom. Particularly his mum. When his mum came in, he would just look the other way. He wouldn't even look at her. I think when you're in a situation like this, your mum is the one person that will love you no matter what, and so you feel like you can treat them, take all your anger out on them, because you know they're going to, at the end of the day, they're going to be there for you with 100% pure love. So I think that's why he was like that toward her, because he could just be how he felt. Anyway, as the days progressed, he started being transferred from his bed to the chair to eat, even though he couldn't sit up. He had to be propped up. He was able to be fed. He didn't have energy for a long time to actually be able to feed himself. So the surgery was on the Monday. On the Friday, he left Charlie's and went to an aged care and rehab centre, which is in Osborne Park. We were told it was very good. I got there that night after he'd been transferred in the ambulance, and my gut just sunk. Like, it was so depressing. It was horrible. Everyone was old. Every single person in that place was elderly. So I don't know why they expected to be able to put a 29-year-old in an elderly home and expect him to pick up in any way, physically or mentally. The anger kicked in pretty bad that night. It was horrible. He was trying to get up out of his wheelchair. He asked me to wheel him to the toilet, so I wheeled him to the toilet, and he was trying to get up and he would not sit down, even though he wouldn't wait. It was so impulsive, and he couldn't wait for any help or for me to get organised or anything. He was very determined and need to get this done by myself, but his brain was telling him that his body was moving, his arm and his leg were moving and supportive, but they weren't. I said to one of the nurses, there's something wrong with him. That's not him in that body. There's something more to it. I know he's had brain surgery, but there's something more. And he's looked at his charts and he said that the steroid that he is on often does that to people. So he halved the amount of it, and the next day he was still impulsive, but he was nowhere near as angry. So from there we we were able to start taking Dom outside and getting some fresh air, and everything just started to get a bit better. So he was there for 2 weeks before we got the results for what the tumour was. The tumour actually turned out to be, and this is in the anaesthetist's words, not quite the size of a grapefruit, but definitely bigger than a lemon. So they were her words. She's seen it, and when we got to the appointment for the results, so they sat us down, and the doctor said to us that they got the results back, and unfortunately it is cancer, which I wasn't expecting. I honestly felt like the worst bit of the tumour had gone. I thought it was over, like he was on the mend and it was all onwards and upwards, but it was just gut-wrenching, to be honest, to be told that. I don't know, it was horrible. So then he went on to explain what type of cancer. Brain cancer is graded into 4, grade 1, grade 2, usually not cancerous, and then grade 3, and then grade 4 is the worst and most aggressive cancer that I think the body gets. He has grade 4 glioblastoma. We went on from there to see what the treatment was and everything like that. We got told he had to have radiation and chemotherapy, but it wouldn't start for 4 to 6 weeks because of the surgery. Everything needed to heal. In those 4 weeks, Dom had started his rehabilitation. He had started moving his leg and getting a little bit of shoulder movement, just slightly. Still nothing in his hand or anything. And it was then decided that it would be best for Dom and his family if he was transferred to Fiona Stanley, which is much closer to our home. He was let out mid-November for day release over the weekend, so he came home on the Saturday, went back Saturday night, and then came home Sunday for the day and went back. And then he spent a whole other week in hospital, and then he was allowed weekend leave. So, which sounds horrible, it sounds like he's in jail, but so he came home for weekend leave, and on the Monday we called the hospital and said he's not coming back, he doesn't need to come back, and they said fine, that's great. And we had the wheelchair, we had the commode, which is a toilet seat thing, and a chair for the shower, and from there he was home. It was so good to have him home. It was extremely hectic, don't get me wrong, it wasn't a walk in the park, but it was better for him, and even for me. I don't care how hard the workload is, I will work to make someone happy, and especially Dom and the kids. When he started his chemotherapy and radiation, he started both on the same day. The chemotherapy was in tablet form, so he had a tablet each morning. The radiation was probably, from my point of view, I can't say for him, but from my point of view, the radiation was much harder on his body than the chemotherapy. It was a big part of our day, every day for 6 weeks. We were very lucky to have a lot of help with not only Dom's appointments, but the kids as well, because even though I wanted to be there 100% for Dom, I also needed to be there for the kids and show them that everything was okay. But we didn't want them to feel like something was really, really wrong. Like they knew something was wrong. And Dom is 2 weeks post chemo and radiation now, and he's feeling a lot more energized. He is able to undertake everyday routines, everyday tasks. He can walk around the house now. He's starting to use his left hand for more things, like he can open doors with it, which is really good, and it's really good for his mental state. From here we have to wait. Dom will have an MRI 4 weeks post the end of radiation and chemotherapy, and we will get the results from that hopefully a week later, I think. We have been doing a lot of alternative treatments as well to help with Dom's recovery and trying to get on top of this horrible cancer. We cannot lose him. That we just have no choice. We can't lose him. He's too young. He's got 2 little boys and so much to live for. He's so loved by everyone, and it's not fair at the end of the day. I have never felt sorry for us, and neither has Dom. He doesn't feel sorry for himself at all, but it just sucks. He's such a good person and he doesn't deserve to go through this. But at the end of the day, these are the cards that we have been dealt, and I am more than happy to be the person standing next to Dom, helping him through this. I do feel like I have a lot to give and a lot to support him. Not only myself, but I have an amazing family. We both have an amazing group of friends. Our whole lives we have been surrounded by so many people. I think a lot of people have a lot to learn from us, and I think that's why we have been given this challenge, because we can show people that no matter what life throws at you, you can get through it. Whatever is meant to be will be. We already know that. We know that our lives are already set. Our path is already set. We will try and fight this to the very end, and I actually feel in my heart that Dom will get through this and he's not going anywhere. It is one hell of a challenge, and so I'm going to wrap this up here, and I will wait for your questions. I'm happy to answer pretty much any question, obviously, as long as it's not too indignifying for Dom. So anyone that is going through this themselves, please stay strong. For whoever the person is that is going through this, all the people need in these situations is positivity, support and encouragement to stay strong. Really, that's the only advice I can really give other than helping out physically. I hope that this video can help other people understand, feel a little bit more positive about their lives in some way. There's always more going on in the world. There's worse things than this going on in the world. Some people don't get given a second chance. At least we got warning, and Dom just wasn't taken away from us. So please give your family a huge hug. Tell them that you love them and appreciate every little minute that you can get with them. Put in extra time, put down your phones and really connect with your family and your friends when you're with them, because you won't always have each other. That is a given. That is a promise that this world has given us, that there is no forever. So on that note, goodbye for now and see you all soon.